Delegate to Congress Stacey Plaskett is in the house. Good morning.
Good morning.
How you feeling?
I'm good.
Oh, so good to see you. It's always good to see you, actually.
Thank you.
I saw you this weekend. Was it this weekend?
Yeah. At that little comedy set.
Yeah, you a layman. A little bit.
Yeah, I try. I try to do a little thing.
I thought the dude was legit, the last guy.
I saw him and the first guy do a set together.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, which was really
you in
interesting.
DC. Mm-hmm.
No. This was the next day at another event. They did a set together, and I thought their ability to feed off of each other, like they've been together a minute to do that. Awesome. Do you have somebody who, you could do jokes with that knows your routine?
I don't know.
You don't have a routine with somebody?
Got Paso over here. Got Kish in the corner.
Who's the straight man? Who's the straight man?
We're both straight.
I mean with the jokes.
All right, Delegate. Hey, listen, I'm so honored to have you here. Superstar. I do have some questions on a paper. Don't worry.
I see that.
This is light work for you. And a paid appearance, not a performance. Your ads came with this, so here you go.
Okay.
Thank you for purchasing.
Okay, very good.
All right, so here it is. I got on my shirt today, my Allen Iverson shirt, because this must be practice for you. You ain't running against nobody, but you're still running a full campaign.
I'm glad that you have a Hoya that you're wearing right now. That's the most important part of the shirt.
There you go. How did you enjoy your time at Georgetown?
That was a spectacular experience for me. I was there right at the end of the Patrick Ewing era. So, everybody was hyped to be there. DC was the height of Chocolate City at the time. It was always shocking to me that when people who hadn't been to Georgetown would see the team, they actually thought it's a black school, right?
Right.
But there ain't that many of us aside from the basketball team there. So everyone's really close. And listen, those are still some of my closest friends. The people that I met at Georgetown, the black alumni are very, very tight there.
And very successful.
Yeah, relatively successful. I was in the Foreign Service School there. Okay. Studying to be a diplomat.
Oh, look at you.
I don't know if that really happened, but I try. And, I have 5 children, 4 boys, and it's only the last son that is actually at Georgetown now. Nobody else even applied. So I think he's enjoying
Did you fail as a parent?
No. I think, it's...
Or did you fail as a Hoya?
Maybe that. Maybe that. I didn't impress on them, as much. But I love the fact that he's enjoying his time there. Okay. And that the school is large enough.
It must be a totally different experience now, though.
Yeah, and he's in a totally different track than me. But he has really great friends that I know he's going to have as lifetime friends. I mean, my best friends, the people that I hang out with, are my friends from Georgetown. So
okay, there you go. All right.
That and family. When you have a big family, you can't get rid of them.
No doubt. So what motivated you to seek political office again?
I felt like there's still work to be done. Some things that are unfinished that I'm trying to work on, trying to create additional momentum for some of the work that was done this time, and also utilizing the administration, the Biden administration, to kind of pivot. I've been talking with my staff that in this last 2 years, we got a lot of things on the books, so to speak, right? Legislation that was passed, opportunities for us. And so I want to spend the next 2 years really working within the Biden administration to make sure they actually get on the ground.
Now, is there anything that you could speak to in specificity that you want to see through?
Sure, definitely. It has been a source of frustration to me that the tremendous amount of funding that we got after the hurricanes has not been realized as yet. And so I really want to work with the federal government as well as the local government to figure out ways to try and stop that logjam, right? And I'm also concerned because Now, I know many in the local government don't believe me when I tell them this, but if the Congress changes to the, not my party, but the other party, there's a
You don't call them by name?
Nah, I ain't even speaking life on them.
I hear that.
There's an ability, and there's been discussion about taking some of the money away from us if it has not been obligated as yet.
Wow.
So I really want to work on that. I think that this...
And I'm sorry, is the logjam on our side or their side?
I think it's both.
Okay.
I think it's both. I think that local government does not have the capacity, the governor will say that, capacity to move things as quickly. They don't have as many people as they need. Yeah. There are issues also with knowledge of the process. And, I think that they could be more aggressive. We have a tendency to often play too nice with the federal government, I think.
Well, not you, though.
It's been my experience. I tell the governor all day long, I'll be bad parent. I'll be the...
Good cop, bad cop. You'll be the bad cop. That's why you're wearing black today?
I love bad cop. I love that role. And I think that, and what I have seen in Washington is the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Yep.
And we don't squeak enough. So I want to work on that. I also created with two other members of Congress, a woman, her name is Marilyn Strickland. She's from Washington State. She used to be the mayor of Tacoma. She's a Korean Black American. And a young dude, my little brother, Richie Torres, who's a member from the South Bronx. We created together a caucus on Black innovation. And so we, as members of Congress, want to support Black founders, Black innovators, Black creators, particularly in the tech space. We recognize that, venture capital funding around the country, only 1% of it went to Black founders last year.
Right.
And so we realize that America is missing out. Our country is missing out with the creativity of Black founders, Black innovators, Black tech companies, as well as the ability for those companies to grow and to hire and to create revenue. So want to work on that. And then, one of my closest friends who had been a member of Congress is now the Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Marcia Fudge. And so I have talked with her quite a bit about working on affordable housing. We know that one of the greatest ways for people to create wealth is through home ownership, and that there's a lack of supply here in the Virgin Islands of that. And so we're looking at creative ways through tax incentives, tax credits, to try and get more houses on the ground so that young people, young professionals, even middle-income people, middle-aged people can buy their first home.
Okay. All right. Now, what would be your most significant accomplishment to date? Because you are well accomplished. And it doesn't have to be in this capacity, but you've done some significant things prior.
I'll say several things. I think what I tried to do, and I'm still trying to do in this position, is change the paradigm on what people believed a member of Congress from a territory can do and has the ability to do. To not be confined by the limitations of what we have, right? So you come from a territory, you are not considered a full member of Congress entirely. We can sit on committees, we can gain seniority, you can vote when you're on committee. When the Democrats are in power, you vote on the floor. You just don't have the ability to vote on final passage. So you do a lot of the procedural voting on the floor. You always get to debate, you always get to argue, you can introduce bills, co-sponsor bills, etc. But I think that limited people, and they felt a limitation in themselves when they were a member of Congress because they didn't have that final passage vote. And I also think it made people back home think that there were things that they couldn't do. And so, it's been my life work not to be what people think I am, to try and be outside of the box with that. And I think that that's what I've done. I'm the first member of a territory to be on the Ways and Means Committee, which is the oldest and most powerful committee on Congress. I'm only the fourth Black woman even to ever sit on that committee. 3 of us are there now.
Right.
And I'm the first member of a territory to be named as an impeachment manager in an impeachment of a president, and only the second Black woman to be named an impeachment manager. I feel that I've created equity for the people of the territory in terms of funding where they weren't getting money equitably in the past. But, that's something that I try and do all the time in my life. When I was at the Justice Department, I was the political person responsible for the largest RICO case against tobacco companies. I advised on the September 11th Victims Compensation Fund, did terrorism litigation. I just try and be different.
All right. Now, you maintain your ties with New York.
Yep. Very
South
much.
Bronx Senator.
Right. The congressman from the South Bronx. Hakeem Jeffries from Brooklyn is a good friend of mine.
Okay.
Yvette Clark from Crown Heights,
Miss Ocasio?
No, not really.
Okay.
Not really. Our politics are a little different. I'm considered a moderate Democrat. She's progressive.
Right.
She's, quite a bit younger than me. I don't think we listen to the same music. I'm old school East Coast rap. I don't know what she listens to.
Okay.
So no, not so much. But definitely, my parents are those Virgin Islanders who moved to New York in the 50s. And so I was born and raised in Brooklyn. And, I consider myself a Brooklyn Crucian.
There you go. Well, I just love the authenticity. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You are like among the most authentic people that I know.
You think so?
100%.
I can't, sometimes I go to a place and I say, and in my mind I'm like, Stacey, you're going to keep your mouth shut. You're not going to say anything.
Is that possible?
And then have the end of the evening, I'm like, what did you do? I can't believe you said that.
Yeah.
Why fix your face?
Have you ever regretted anything?
Sure.
You had some viral moments, the rolling of the eyes.
Yeah. But,
the debt stare.
Yeah, those things I don't regret. More personal life, if I've said something a little too harshly that may offend someone that I cared about. I try to be cognizant of that and go back and say, I'm sorry. You need to know
That's
how
key.
to say you're sorry and mean it.
Right.
And that you're trying to change. But when it comes to politics, not too many regrets.
Okay.
Maybe, I had a clash with Speaker Pelosi initially when I came in. It took a while to smooth out. She's a little unforgiving.
Right.
And puts people in the timeout corner when they clash with her. But I felt it was a principle. I believe in loyalty. And so I was on the opposite end of something with her on that.
Well, I feel like you probably gained some points with her with the impeachment management.
Yeah, it was way before that. So I would assume that, I think at the end of the day, she's about delivering, right? And if she can deliver without you, she's going to do it. But if she needs you, she's going to bring you in.
All right. What are your long-term goals for GRS?
That's a really hairy one because GERS is, of course, something that's handled locally. And I have told our local legislature, more than one governor, that the federal government is not bailing out anybody's retirement system. They have watched retirement systems fail and left it on people's own to fix it. My goal is to continue to create revenue for the Virgin Islands so that they can be fiscally responsible to solve their problems. And as GERS requests assistance in terms of types of federal reliefs, I'm here for it. But I think it's the responsibility of local government to be fiscally responsible. And, for people as well, I know this is going to sound a little harsh, but for people as well to not expect government to completely carry them. I think that's, I don't know where that mentality came in to Virgin Islands culture, but it's problematic for us not to believe that we can do for ourselves and that the federal government and even local government is responsible for all of our needs. But yeah, and I think that's something that I believe I've been really good about. When I first came to office, if you listen to one of the ads, this is the first time my husband has done an ad. He's never done an ad for me in a campaign. And it was really interesting because at home, he talks a lot. He's the one who talks the most. Right. And when he was doing the ad, they sent me the raw footage. And the amount of takes that he had was hilarious.
Oh, wow.
But, and I know that was him being nervous and wanting to get it right, But in his ad, he talks about the fact that when I came to office, there was always threats of payless paydays. Right. There was always shortages in our revenue. And I have made sure that there is sufficient money, at least coming from the federal government, that we have surplus. And it's now incumbent on local government to do the right thing with that money. And that's also, Rashidi, that's a huge frustration, right? Because you give people the resources, right, and then you're not responsible for how they spend it or what they do with it. That's terribly frustrating for me. My OCD, my ADD,
But you voice
micromanagement.
You voice those frustrations. What can you do, you think, further to encourage,
well,
that
there's the carrot and the stick, right? The carrot is, how can I help you? Here are resources, sharing with the people. At some point, sticks come about, and stick is federal oversight. Much more engagement and restrictions on the part of the federal government.
You think that's on our horizon?
If we don't hurry up and do what needs to be done, I'm thinking about it with specific streams of funding because I think they're too critical and they're once in a generation type funds that cannot be squandered or cannot be sent back. Yeah.
Okay. All right. You're thinking about it.
Yeah.
All right. I don't think you'll be thinking much longer.
No, November 8th is right around the corner.
There you go. You go. All right, now let me ask you this. You're running a full-fledged campaign, right?
Yeah, not the full-fledged. I mean, it's not like, when you go hard in the paint, it's not a full court press. It ain't really, Because
you're a big deal. You got the biggest signs out here.
Well, I figured I didn't have to do a lot of signs, right? So
just big ones.
My plan was, let's not do a lot. Let's just make it hyper impactful.
Right. Well, they certainly are.
And I went back to my original campaign slogan, which
the message
was
is pointed.
For people, not politics. Right. That I want to be about the people's business, not about the shenanigans of politics. And I want to embed that in people's mind.
You brought down some folks for education. Mm-hmm. How much of your job is relationships? How much of your job is policy?
Ooh, that's a great question. I would say 70% is relationships because you can have the policy and it not move if you don't have the relationships to make it move. I spend a lot of time on the floor of the House talking to people, developing, understanding who they are, where their priorities are, what they're working on, how what I'm doing fits with it. The floor of the House is the lunch cafeteria. There are the beautiful people section, the athlete section, there's a black table, there's a Hispanic table. Well, for us, it's like there's a California crew sits in one area, a New York crew sits in another area, the progressive sits somewhere.
So where do you sit?
I sit everywhere.
All right.
I'm a floater.
That might be the one advantage of being a territory.
Right. And that's been my life, kind of. I've never been with one group. We grew up in public housing, but I went to private school. I didn't go to school with the kids in my neighborhood, and I didn't live with the people that I went to school with. At 13, I went away to boarding school It was 11 of us, 11 Black people out of 800 students. So I'm used to kind of floating and being kind of on my own and knowing how to move in and out of different circles, not code switching, but life switching, right? I even feel that way when I come back home. I come from a really, really old Virgin Islands family, but it's not that many of us that live here anymore. So many of us go away to college and don't come back home, right? I have, on both sides of my family, I have like over 80 first cousins, and it's a handful of us that live in the Virgin Islands. People live elsewhere. So I kind of try to move in between circles. And when I come on the floor, I put my bag down at the black table because I don't want black folks to say I've forgotten who I am, right? So
she's stush.
Yeah, right.
She thinks she's better than we. She was impeachment manager. She ain't got no time for we no more.
They will do all
just
of
in
that.
a different dialect.
Right. And I talk trash with them, tell some rude jokes or whatever, ask after somebody's grandchild, and then I move around to other members. I'm a member of the New Democratic Coalition, which are the moderate, pragmatic Democrats. Talk with them about policy that we're working on. Go chicken with the old guys from the Midwest, the Blue Dogs, and then, go to the New York crew, hang out with them, talk about what happened on Power last week. Who's playing, what's happening, Nets versus Knicks. We have those discussions.
So, it sounds like fun from the outside looking in, but it's exhausting. It must be mentally exhausting. And then you got to come home and you got to canvas.
My day starts in Washington. I wake up before 6, check out the Virgin Islands papers, see what's happening back home, turn on the radio, listen to that. Then I check into national news, New York Times, Financial Times, read the paper, watch the news, watch Fox News to see what the other side is saying. Get into the office before 8. Meetings start at 8. Throughout the day, if there are votes on the floor at 11, 12 o'clock at night, sometimes, and you're doing that. You have a meeting with special interest groups, different people. Then I have a team who's working on stuff. I have a legislative team that's trying to pump out policy, trying to find ways that we can put legislation that we're working on in bills that are moving on the floor. We've got constituent cases, people here concerned, I can't get my passport renewed. My brother wants to come from Trinidad, come to visit the Virgin Islands. Immigration
help me get
issues.
this artist a visa.
Exactly, all of that. Or, talking with customs about drug interdiction. It's a lot that goes on in a day, as well as members coming to me about their issues, right? I sit on the Ways and Means Committee. There are just not that many members on Ways and Means, and this is the sole revenue generating committee. So I have members who want to meet with me about their legislation, and before I meet with them, I'm trying to think of what do I have that I need from, can get them to do for me, as it's, constant bartering trading.
All right. Now, some of our issues at home, you don't really, it's kind of like you mentioned before. You don't necessarily have the ways and means to resolve some of our issues at home, but they are significant.
They are.
So a situation like mental health.
Right.
How do we address that? How can you contribute to solving this issue?
Sure. I know that people hear about in Washington such things they call pork earmarks, right? And they just started bringing them back, where in a large piece of legislation, members of Congress can pick specific projects that they want money to go to. And in the past, when I first got to Congress, they had stopped that practice, and they just started doing it again. And this year, I reached out to a lot of nonprofits. I didn't want to just get what the government wants to do, because I'm like, look, dudes, I've been giving y'all plenty of money. Let's see what the nonprofits need. And we were able to actually get money for mental health services to some of the nonprofits who are always doing, the nonprofits here are always doing tremendous work to fill in the gap. to be there on the ground, right at the grassroots, talking about mental health for our young people, doing wraparound services. Kids are in school and they're getting help from their teachers, but what happens when they leave the school? So creating community activities where young people can go to a community setting and have social workers, have young people, other people there who can support them. Also creating housing, alternative housing for those in our community who have mental health issues. Many of the people that we see that are homeless, we think are drug addicts, but they're really self-medicating mental health issues. So trying to provide funding for those services as well.
So in a very interesting way, I think you're the breadwinner of the Virgin Islands. You go out, you get the money.
Yeah, I'm the working mother.
And it seems like you're doing a good job. The funds are there and sometimes underutilized or not utilized at all. You spoke about those frustrations earlier. But I'm sure now there must be a national push for renewable energy and things of that nature. How do we funnel those things here to the territory and address some of our issues with water and power?
I think that's a great thing. And one of the things I'm thinking about putting together is a conference here in the Virgin Islands in the winter months for renewable...
Hold your ear for a second. I like that.
For renewable energy, alternative energy companies, federal agencies, etc. We know that President Biden passed a $1 trillion legislation infrastructure bill that had and his mandate was, I want the bulk of this funding to go to underserved communities, communities of color, communities that have resiliency, climate change issues, communities where
all the above
they
so far.
Communities that have had fossil fuel that need alternative energies. All of those are us.
Yes.
And so I've been talking with Mitch Landrieu, who is the czar at the White House of the infrastructure package, about using the Virgin Islands as a pilot for that. You know, let's not talk about the refinery as a refinery. Let's talk about that South Shore as an alternative energy, renewable energy hub for LNG coming from Texas, natural gases coming from other places, going down the Lesser Antilles, using the Virgin Islands as a hub between fuel that's coming from West Africa into the Caribbean region, up through the Panama Canal. Like, those are things that we need to think about. What can we manufacture? What specific components? You know, if something has the last 15% of manufacturing done in the Virgin Islands, no matter where it's from, it gets the Made in the USA label along with tax and trade benefits. So let's utilize those things to support our economy. We've got to diversify our economy.
I think geographically, like, we are the perfect pilot program due to our footprint, our size.
Right.
It's a perfect controlled environment. Something goes wrong, America could just go, oops, keep it moving. I mean, like, we're perfect.
We are. And I had put language in the defense authorization that requires even the Defense Department to look at the Virgin Islands, do an assessment of a projection of force. Is the United States projecting military force in the region, in Latin America and Central America, and utilizing the location of the Virgin Islands properly? And even projection of force and security measures in the Western Africa as well. We have most of the terrorism that's going on in the world, the most of it is in Africa right now, in Northern Africa. And we have major initiatives or commands that are happening in Africa. And yet we're utilizing a telecommunications network that goes through Europe or goes through Asia. There's no direct link between the United States and Africa. And so we've been talking with them, Stephen Adams at VINGN about utilizing St. Croix as a base to have underwater cables to do telecommunications between West Africa and the United States through the U.S. Virgin Islands. Slave traders use that triangle for a reason, right? It made geographic and financial sense, and the United States needs to take advantage of that.
Do you think you're getting that message across?
Yeah, the language is in there, and so there's a study that's going to be done, and I can't see if they're doing it objectively that they don't see the benefit of it.
All right, now psychologically, I can tell that you're running again after this term.
Yeah?
Yeah, psychologically, because
so?
I feel like I could be wrong. Tell me. It's okay. Tell me we're friends. You can tell me when I'm wrong. I feel like this is you. This little campaign here. You folks from even attempting to run against you next time. Forgive the term.
I would love somebody to run against me.
Oh, because you want to spar. You just want to beat up on somebody and then keep it moving.
I think it's not just that. I think it's easier to get your message across to people when there's somebody that you have to answer to.
Okay, that's fair.
And that it requires you to engage more with the general public, that they pay attention more if there's an opposition. It also engages people to volunteer for you more if you have someone who's running against you. And makes you even think and fine-tune what's important, what's not important, what are my priorities, what did I do well, what didn't I do well, how do I augment that in a way that doesn't happen when you're running unopposed.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So, but when, I find in this election that I spend a lot of my time campaigning for other people around the country because of the impeachment, because I'm on cable television a lot. I have been, colleagues and others, candidates have called me. So going to Arizona, to Nevada, Florida, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, campaigning for other people.
So now I said this to somebody and they thought I was crazy. But that's kind of like canvassing for a bigger, like if there was to be the first black female president, I believe it could be you. I know maybe you don't want that, but
I don't know. I'm not a squeaky clean kind of person. I've had, I had my first child while I was in undergrad.
You think that matters?
I think that does matter to a sector of our population. I have a terrible cursing habit. That I'm trying to pull in a little bit on. But I don't know. I've been divorced, remarried. I don't know.
I feel like you've overcome all of those things clearly.
Yeah.
Handled them rather routinely, actually. But as far as qualifications, as far as knowledge, as far as the vigor to get the job done, I feel like I'm looking at an amazing.
Well, in most instances, if people are doing the same job, if there's a black woman doing the job, she's usually more qualified than everybody else there, because how else would she have gotten there and overcome her gender and her race in a lot of people's minds? But who knows? Who knows? I don't know. That's not really something that I think about. My parents are always like, when are you gonna make some money? That's kind of the thing that I've been thinking about more.
Got it.
Is how do I repay the sacrifices that have been made now, not just by my parents, but by my husband and kids for the last 8 years.
That's a sacrifice too,
My daughter is looking at high schools right now, and I went away to boarding school. Her older brothers went away, and she's like, I think I want to look at that. And I was like, no, you can't. And she was like, everybody else did. And I was like, yeah, but you're the only person that I haven't seen every day.
You feel guilty about that at all?
I do.
Does she
not
understand?
Necessarily guilty. I feel disappointed that I miss things.
Is she understanding?
Oh, yeah, she's totally understanding about it. And when she was younger, she would get a little upset about it. Oh, you're not going to be home. And, start crying or whatever. And I'm like, look, this is my job. This is how the job works. But I think her being in Washington and seeing the other members of Congress and seeing what our work really is and understanding that, I think she's okay with it.
Well, I feel like it's a different time, too. All those viral moments you had and those viral outfits, that makes you having the coolest mom in the class that you can say, no, my mom went viral, like, for real.
Oh, she doesn't want me coming near her class.
Really?
No. Come on. What kid wants their mother near their class? I'm like, oh, Talia, can I come in? No, stay
Really?
right there. Just don't.
Okay.
Don't come to that. It's like, oh, you're having a school dance. I'm going to chaperone.
Oh, well, no.
Oh, no.
That's a hard no.
No. But somebody's got a chaperone.
Yeah, not you, though.
I'm a good chaperone.
I would imagine you are.
Yeah. I'm a, distance. I need to see a distance between you, young man, and the young lady.
If she sees this, you will never be invited to a dance. So now there's one thing that I think would bother you. It bothered me. Supreme Court declined to review territorial civil rights case. How disappointing is that, and how do you address that? How can you be an agent of change for that?
What's even more disappointing to me is the position of the Biden administration, where they have not taken up the mantle of trying to undo the insular cases, which is the premise for all of this.
Right.
And that's another one of the things on my list for the next 2 years, is to really be in their face about that. That's not just a disappointment, but offensive.
This is disrespectful, man.
Disrespectful and offensive.
Considering our ultimate sacrifice that so many soldiers have given.
Exactly.
And not just here, but American Samoa and Guam. And we disproportionately represent
American Samoa,
the military.
Northern Mariana, Guam.
Yeah.
Their numbers are so high, and the way that we're treated is just so inappropriate. Did you know that the Cherokee Nation is actually asking for a seat in Congress now?
Oh, really? Their own seat?
Yeah. So it seems that under the treaty in the 1800s, after the Trail of Tears, there was an agreement that they shall have
Really?
a seat in Congress and be treated as a delegate, like as a territory.
Oh, wow.
And so they are now addressing the Biden administration and Congress about giving them that seat.
How do you think that would change the complexion of Congress? No pun intended.
Not too much.
Right.
Not too much. I think it would be very cool.
Yeah.
And an appropriate thing to do.
Agreed.
And the interest. There are members of Congress who really do fight for Native American interests, right? You had Deb Haaland when she was a member of Congress from New Mexico. There are members from Sherry, who's a member in Kansas, is Native American. There are even members who are not Native American who have large reservations and Indian nations that are part of their district that fight. But to have someone actually representing one of the nations would be very cool. I wonder if it would touch off other nations to kind of brush up and look at their old treaty and see if they have the same language in there.
And they got some financial power too, so.
Yes.
So sadly that sometimes gets the biggest change.
What I always find really interesting though is Black Americans who always want to claim Cherokee blood, right? And what they forget is that the Cherokee Nation was also one of the largest slave owners, which is often why they mingled with Black people.
Right.
So.
A tinge of Woman King vibes. Right. Have you seen Woman King?
I did. Did you like it?
I did.
You didn't say it definitively. You said it like, oh, okay.
No, I did. It was good. It was cool.
Who was your favorite character?
Don't remember her name. She was shot in the back near the end.
Yes.
Yes.
Right? And she's Caribbean.
Is she?
Yes. By England.
Okay.
Yeah. I think her last name is Lynch.
Okay. Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was good. She was very
great.
cool.
She was
Right?
great. I enjoyed it. I especially enjoyed her.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed my time here with you today as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
I feel like when it's all written,
Uh-huh.
you're going to go down as one of the greatest Virgin Islanders in our history.
Well,
I'm going to give you that.
We have, that's a long, there's a long history of tremendous Virgin Islanders who, I mean, isn't it amazing, Rashidi, like such a small place
All right.
that has produced such incredible intellects, athletes, artists, just amazing people.
So that's why I feel comfortable to say something like, I feel like if you so desired and had the ambition and the backing, you could be president. I say that because Tim Duncan turned out to be the greatest power forward of all time.
Yeah.
Vaughn Benjamin of Midnight became a reggae ambassador the world over, not just for the Virgin Islands.
Right.
Pressure Bus Pipe
Right.
has one of the greatest songs.
Right.
Tehran from our city writes for all of your favorite artists.
Yep.
So
yep.
I feel
We have-
comfortable
and
saying
even
something
before
like that.
right, we have Edward Wilmot Blyden's father of Pan-Africanism,
Yeah.
right? What an incredible concept
Yeah.
that he created right here from St. Thomas. So
There you go.
Yeah.
So
we'll see.
There it is.
If I do, then you'll have to come on the trail with me.
say less.
Okay.
Come on, man. All right, so Big Man Pass always has a good question.
All right, here we go.
Don't let us down. No pressure.
I mean, you just put me on the spot now.
Yeah, no pressure.
I don't ask a crazy question. I just look like that guy.
Yep.
Okay, so earlier you did say that the squeakiest wheel gets the most oil. Is that the correct quote?
Yeah.
Did I
Yeah,
say
close
that?
enough.
Close.
All right. Okay. So as a youth in the Virgin Islands, we a lot of squeaky wheels. A box of squeaky wheels, if that. So
Here we go.
I'm asking. I want to know, as a Virgin Islander and as a youth, how do I turn that squeakiness into positive change? Because there's complaining and there's petitioning for actual change. So what steps does a simple Virgin Islander like me take to have something change within my community?
Oh, that's a great
told you.
question. And you guys do squeak a lot.
Yeah, man. Screaming.
You got some squeakers too, don't you?
Yeah, and I know squeakers, but I think the greatest change that you all can have and would cause is to organize yourselves.
Oh, whoa.
You don't organize yourselves. You stay on social media and complain about nobody's paying you any attention, and you're really just talking to yourselves and your own algorithm there on social media. But I think if you organized yourselves, and listen, the greatest, we have a system in the Virgin Islands where the people with the most power are the elected officials. And the only way to counteract them is for you all to act as a voting bloc, right? As a member of Congress, a strong voting bloc scares the heck out of you. Right. The teachers union, they got a lot of power because they act as one head and they vote. And unfortunately, y'all don't vote. So nobody takes you seriously.
And what do you attribute to the youth of today? And not just in the Virgin Islands, across America, actually. I mean, the voting numbers are going down and down.
Right,
so what
right.
do you attribute to less voting and this generation?
I think, one, people don't think that their vote is effective or does anything, which is counter to facts. I mean, John DeYoung had to go into a runoff because of 2 votes. So here in the Virgin Islands, every vote is very important, particularly when you have lower numbers. That gives a disproportionate benefit to your vote. And then I think the other thing is that, I just think that you haven't been organized, or you haven't had a leader who galvanizes young people to want to come to the polls to vote. That's part of it.
Yeah. Who should we look to as a template to be like, hey, this is how we should?
I'm not young anymore, so I can't answer that for you.
Right.
I think you guys got to figure that out for yourselves. Is it one of your own, or is it someone older? I mean, I'm looking right here. Young people love Bernie Sanders, right? I don't think he came out and said, I'm gonna go after young people. They decided that that's who they wanted to follow because of what he was saying, because of his attitude. Barack Obama was the same thing. Young people persuaded their parents, their grandparents, to support Barack Obama. It's who you all feel within yourselves is the person who's going to do that for
Awesome.
you.
Hey, well, listen, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for coming through.
Thank you.
Unprecedented. This is our longest interview in history.
Uh-oh.
But
Cool.
since
Well,
you're
I appreciate
unopposed,
Yeah.
it's not biased, so I
Yeah.
just let
I
it go.
thank you that I see that you got my my little picture.
You know I
there.
was after you for that for a long time.
I got another poster for you.
Oh,
of
please.
me. Yeah, that I'm going to bring down to you.
Well, you got to sign it.
I
I
totally.
want the big girl signature, though.
Yeah, it's gonna be. It'll have a little special message.
Awesome. Oh,
Right.
Oh, thank you.
So when are you gonna come to Washington?
When I'm invited.
Okay. All right. Say less.
Can I hang out with Ricky a little bit?
Oh yeah.
That'll
Yeah.
might be there in a week. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you.
As I mentioned before, truly appreciate your authenticity and your tact.
Yeah.
Because even in the course of this discussion, it's clear there are people who you don't mess with, but it was said in such a tactful way. And I appreciate
Yeah, that's
that.
off-camera discussion,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, but I appreciate how real you are.
Yeah.
Really do. So thank you so much for coming through. Anna in the Middays is up next out of the Twin City St. Croix studio. Delegate Stacey Plaskett, number 1, I'm assuming, on the
Yes,
ballot.
indeed.
Yep, there's an app for that.
It's called Vivid Streaming, and you can download it in the app and Google Play Store.